Welcome to the debate. Our focus today is on two organizations that really represent the absolute pinnacle of digital media production. You have the Western phenomenon of MrBeast and the formidable APAC titan, 萤石飓风, or Mediastorm. We're analyzing them not just as, entertainment, but as competing models for a potential multi-billion-dollar investment. One aimed at securing the future, really, of global media.
Mm-hmm.
The core thesis is pretty simple. Both command massive, engaged attention, but they achieve it through fundamentally opposing operational philosophies.
Right. Different paths to the same goal, essentially.
Exactly. And that brings us to the central question, the one we really have to answer for our investors. Is the future of global media dominance secured primarily through, let's say, scientific content industrialization, pure data optimization, and capital-driven scale, which is the MrBeast model? Or is it through deep proprietary technical mastery, authentic audience connection, and culturally sticky, market-specific IP incubation, the Mediastorm model?
Okay.
I'll be arguing that the MB model, founded on scientific rigor and just unmatched scale, provides the highest return probability for global attention acquisition. It serves as the clearest path, I think, to establishing the next enduring media conglomerate.
Okay. I see why you'd favor the sheer velocity and the scale of the MB machine. It's impressive. But I come at it from a slightly different angle. MrBeast, well, it's predicated on an ever-escalating arms race of capital expenditure just to maintain the spectacle. I'm going to contend that the more robust and, frankly, sustainable competitive advantage lies with Mediastorm. They've built this irreplaceable technical and professional moat. It's validated by a highly structured approach to quality control and, crucially, an authentic connection to a rapidly expanding market that seems to value technical depth over just, capital flash. Our investment, I believe, must prioritize technological stability and high-quality long-term IP value over that immediate, data-optimized virality.
All right, let's start then with what I'd call the scientific supremacy of the MB model. MrBeast isn't merely a successful creator. It's a refined industrial machine. Content generation is treated almost like an engineering problem. We'd be investing in data science, really, evidenced by the reported, 20 to 30,000 hours spent studying virality itself. Success isn't subjective. It's governed by three core non-negotiable metrics: click-through rate, CTR, average view duration, AVD, and average view percentage, AVP. That system, it guarantees the highest possible yield on every dollar spent. Their production architecture, it's designed to minimize risk while maximizing retention. They obsess over the first minute. That's where the highest audience attrition occurs. The solution? Engineering crazy progression in those early minutes and designing massive bespoke re-engagement spectacles, usually around the 3 and 6 minute marks. Crucially, the moat here is the execution scale. We're talking 500 total employees, backed by fixed infrastructure like that 2.4 billion CNY, or roughly $2 million USD, no-pillar acoustic soundstage. That investment enables a wow factor that is financially prohibitive for almost anyone else. And furthermore, their A-player human capital strategy demands results, not ours, ensuring projects operate with a near-perfect probability of success, because failure is essentially engineered out of the process through intense daily checks on bottlenecks.
That's the compelling argument for industrial scale, I grant you that. But I would frame that wow factor differently. MB trades in pure spectacle, right? And that requires an ever-increasing capital base just to maintain the audience's expectations. That investment in fixed assets and escalating prize pools, it introduces significant operational liability. Mediastorm, or MS, they focused instead on building proprietary, internal knowledge and technical mastery. And that's crucial, I think, for long-term IP value, especially in the critical Mandarin-speaking sphere.
Okay.
Their moat isn't money, it's quality and authenticity. MS explicitly prioritizes 超达真人, which, translates roughly to reaching real people. They believe this genuine, unmediated connection is the most valuable and, frankly, increasingly scarce form of digital media. They specifically reject what they call elite narratives, things divorced from their audience. And this commitment, it manifests in their technical hierarchy. They prioritize microphone, camera, lens. Sound, they argue, 声音也是视频的灵魂. Sound is the soul of video. That's the true differentiator. They back this claim up by employing 6 audio engineers and mixers, meticulously capturing independent ambient soundscapes, ensuring a technical flawlessness that builds inherent trust and professionalism, something spectacles, can never truly guarantee.
They also de-risk the creative process through intellectual honesty, this trash first, then legend mentality, and advanced internal tools, like using AI to structure complex, nonlinear field diaries into cohesive narratives. It's quite sophisticated.
Let's directly compare the strength and resilience of these two modes then. The MB mode is global virality based on data science. Their capital expenditure? Well, that's simply the cost of ensuring success. When you talk about risk, you have to factor in the leverage gains by that data optimization. They are masters of setting and exceeding audience expectations through title and thumbnail testing, constantly optimizing even retired videos for potentially a 10 million view lift. The spectacle, the wow factor, it's not just entertainment, it's their insurance policy for sustained, universally resonant viewer engagement. Their content is inherently scalable because the concepts, money, survival, competition, these are currency agnostic. They work everywhere.
I'm just not convinced that spectacle is the most sustainable moat for long-term institutional investment. MrBeast's reliance on continually escalating capital for the spectacle, it feels like it creates an economic bubble. If the audience habituates, or if the investment fails to deliver that instant shock value, you risk high audience churn. MSXCM, on the other hand, minimizes creative risk by investing in flawlessness and documentation. They minimize external contractors, they use extensive internal video documentation for every single process. And more strategically, they establish their channel as a professional authority. Their stated goal, apparently, is to become an exam that manufacturers must pass before launching a product. Now, that position of trust and authority creates a fiercely loyal audience, one willing to follow them into adjacent technical education or even massive long-term IP ventures. That gives the investor reliable cash flow outside of volatile ad revenue. The technical depth builds cultural capital that, frankly, financial expenditure just cannot replicate.
Okay. I acknowledge the internal stability that technical depth provides, sure. But let's pivot to efficiency, replicability, and cost structure, because that's the operational core of our investment decision here. MS talks about Shangzhen, entropy reduction, which is a philosophy of ruthlessly focusing only on content that serves the core narrative, avoiding huali hushao de qintou, flashy, unnecessary shots. While philosophically sound, their industrialization methods, though impressive, feel somewhat localized. They rely on cloud-based documentation using platforms like Feishu, which is a Chinese enterprise collaboration tool, to eliminate Xingxi Sha, the information gap, across their nearly 100 staff. That is systematic efficiency, yes, but it seems like tailored internal architecture for their domestic growth, potentially making it slower to scale globally compared to MB's approach.
See, I disagree on the speed of scaling. Their system of industrialization, that internal architecture itself, that is the true replicable asset. It is low cost and high efficiency. Take their hardware choices. They strategically use older DV cameras specifically for their superior battery life and stability in rough conditions. They operate under the mantra that 拍到真的比拍好要重要太多. Basically, getting the shot is far more important than making it look perfect in the moment. This philosophical approach prioritizes narrative delivery and reliability over aesthetic perfection. It proves they are masters of low-cost solutions, which is infinitely more versatile and, I'd argue, less risky than MB's strategy of solving every problem by throwing millions of dollars at it. The disciplined, systematic efficiency of MS's knowledge management can be applied to any market. It's a knowledge moat, not just a technology stack.
Well, MB also values efficiency, but they use capital and data as their primary tools for solving problems and, importantly, creating strategic barriers. They practice cost optimization where it makes sense. You mentioned the $20,000 cash versus $18.25 Doritos example for prizes, right? But their willingness to invest millions in infrastructure and complex sets, like the reported $500,000 required just to house contestants waiting for that Squid Game challenge, that's a calculated move. This reliance on overwhelming capital creates operational risk. Yes, I concede that, but that high entry barrier guarantees that only competitors with similar huge war chests can even think about entering the arena. Their replicable model isn't just data, it's their fiercely demanding A-player human capital strategy. They build a moat out of the world's most results-driven talent pool, a human moat built on global competitiveness, not just sophisticated documentation. That, I think, is a far higher barrier to cross than adapting to a new cloud service.
You touch on a critical point there, the A-player strategy. While it produces results, it carries the inherent risk of burnout and talent churn, doesn't it? That high operational risk requires continuous, intense management and replacement costs. So, if we look toward future growth and sustainability, MB's model is internationally scalable because it deals in universally understood concepts, but it requires continuous, escalating financial input to keep the model viable. The investor is perpetually leveraged against the next, bigger spectacle.
But that is the strength of global scalability. MB's demographic reach is already massive. Over 50% of the audience is in the US and Europe. Their operational structure ensures that every dollar is maximized for global viral output. Their core mission planning dictates that the 4 existing teams are easily scalable to 8, allowing for continuous industrialization and rapid expansion into new formats. This systemic approach is arguably the only proven model currently acquiring global attention on a multi-billion view scale that isn't tied down to a single local market or language.
I'm still not entirely convinced by that line of reasoning, because global scale achieved through spectacle risks superficial engagement. MS is strategically positioned for the massive and culturally complex global Mandarin and broader APAC market. Their strategic acumen is evident in their goal to, quote, da shouzhang kyunkyu, to expand the audience base by intentionally pivoting from niche topics, like camera cages, to massive consumer topics like mobile video, which apparently garners 7 to 8 times the potential audience. They understand market leverage better than simply throwing money at a massive prize pool. Furthermore, their commitment to internal technical training, creating internal courses, team-based vlogs, it ensures long-term talent retention and quality control. This makes them a far more stable cultural asset for a long-term investor. When you invest in MS, you're acquiring an entity that's already successfully fighting for the longevity of its IP. Look at their anti-piracy efforts against content geocode or deconstruction on these fast content platforms. They aren't just chasing the quick click. They are building IP with inherent stickiness and real cultural value.
Look, ultimately, the investment in MrBeast secures a controlling stake in what is arguably the most scientifically optimized, industrialized, and globally dominant content factory currently operating. Their commitment to metrics, to data science, and sheer scale is the most efficient and, I would argue, least speculative bet for capturing billions of eyes worldwide. It's an investment in a guaranteed attention arbitrage engine.
The investment in Mediastorm, however, secures a foothold in the future of media defined by technological mastery and authentic, high-quality IP, specifically in the fastest-growing and arguably most complex media market globally. While MrBeast leverages capital for reach, MS meticulously engineers proprietary solutions, including custom hardware and software, building content that has inherent cultural stability, superior quality control, and genuine long-term stickiness.
It is clear, I think, that both organizations demonstrate that future media dominance won't be defined by singular creativity alone, but by robust systems, rigorous data analysis, and just relentless iteration.
Absolutely. The investor must now weigh which operational philosophy really guarantees the highest long-term return: the continuous, optimized global expansion driven by scientific scale, or the deep technical and cultural security offered by proprietary depth and market-specific authenticity.
Both define a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, certainly, but they demand fundamentally different long-term resource commitments and risk profiles.